Hi, I thought I would do a series of videos on the Freedom Trail in Boston, Massachusetts. Boston just happens to be one of my favorite places to take groups. I love going there. The history is so rich, and all around Boston there are so many exciting, interesting places that you can go that are within a short distance. But the Freedom Trail is what I thought I would talk about, and I'm going to do it in a series of videos because there's about 16 different historic stops along the Freedom Trail. The trail itself is 2.5 miles long. It starts at the Boston Commons and it ends up at Old Ironsides, which is the USS Constitution. Well, the idea for this was from a man named William Schofield, and he was a writer. He was a travel writer for the Boston Herald, and he noticed how tourists were coming to Boston and they were constantly getting lost, trying to find the historic sites. And if you've ever been to Boston, you'll know why. Boston is, it was not on a grid system, so it was found in 1630s, so it's more European style, and the roads are kind of windy and curvy and sometimes don't make a lot of sense. So he thought this would be a good idea to help people from getting lost. So what they did is they painted a red line from all the historic stops. Some places it's red brick that is in the pavement of the sidewalk. So before I get started on the first stop, which would be the Boston Common, I thought maybe I'd give you a little bit of history about how Boston got started. So we all know in 1620 that the Pilgrims came over on the Mayflower and they settled in Plymouth. And then within 3 years, more ships started coming over and different settlements started popping up, including Weymouth and Salem. Now, a man named John Winthrop was selected to be the leader and governor of this new Massachusetts Bay Colony. And so he was sent over here on a series of ships, probably 4 or 5 ships of his people, which they think may have been around 700 people. But the fleet that was coming over, there were 11 ships that were coming over together. Now he pulls, and that's the first port, and they start surveying the land, looking for a place to settle, and they decide to settle along the Charles River. And as they're settling, people are starting to get sick. A lot of people are dying, and what was going on was their water source was contaminated. So there was this man, and his name was William Blackstone, and he was kind of watching all this from the hill. And William Blackstone had come over in 1623 and settled in Weymouth, and then in 1625, he moves up to the Shawmut Peninsula. He settles on a big piece of land that we now call Boston. It's actually where the Boston Common is. But he settles there, and he had brought over from England with him 186 books. So he was in good company. He was a bit of a hermit, so he didn't have people around him. But he had started an apple orchard. We know this from the town records. And he was near a good water source. So he decides to send an olive branch to this group, and he, says, you're more than welcome to come over here. I've got a good water supply and the land is great. So they take him up on his offer. Well, within about 4 years, the town had swelled up to about 3,000 to 4,000 people. And William Blackstone starts getting a little pushed out. The good Governor Winthrop offers Blackstone 50 acres. Here, I'm such a good guy, I'm going to grant you 50 acres. And so, Blackstone's like, oh my gosh, and Blackstone was an Anglican minister, so he wasn't a Puritan, and maybe another video we can discuss the difference between the Puritans, the separatists and Quakers and on and on. But he started feeling a little bit pushed out. So he's like, okay, fine, here you can, I'm selling you back your land. He had 800 acres himself, all to himself, when he offered to help these guys out. But he's like, here, I'm selling you back 44. I think he must be keeping 6 just in case it didn't work out. And he just heads south and ends up in what we now call Rhode Island, which is just about 35 miles south of Boston. So, and then, more people start coming over with the Great Migration. In the 1630s, there were, I think they estimate maybe 10,000 immigrants came over to America at that time. And so they decided they're going to change the name from Shawmut to Boston because that's where they were from. And so that's how Boston become settled. So the next video will be on the Boston Common. I'll see you then.